This video is brought to you by my good friends at WorldPoint. They are my go-to place to source any and all of your training equipment and AHA curriculum needs. They literally carry everything that you need and vet it all to make sure that they're selling only high quality products. On top of that, their customer service is fantastic, and they provide same-day free shipping with no minimum purchase amounts. I highly encourage you to check them out and partner with them for your future training needs. Hey guys, Andrew with CPR Instructor Affiliates, powered by Prime Medical Training. We're a national AHA training center, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Prestan AED Ultra trainer. Now, we're big fans of Prestan, and that is not just of their mannequins, but also of their AEDs. They put out these really good AEDs that take it a step further than a lot of the other AED trainers on the market and make it more intuitive and engaging in the classroom. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So here we have our 4-pack. They also come sold individually. It's a nice little bag, has a carrying handle, fairly small and portable, which I like. You unzip it, open it up, and here you have your AED unit with 3 buttons on it. So starting to the far right, this is going to be the child button. So when you turn it on, you have the option to select either adult or child. So by default, it's going to be adult.
Adult patient. If the patient is a child, press the child button.
So at that point, you can press the
patient
child button.
Remove the child's shirt. Remove packet and apply pads onto child's bare skin.
So I'll stop it there. The pads come on this plastic frame, and so there's a pad on each side, and in the center of the pad is a pressure sensor. So when you put it on the mannequin, it actually can detect when the AED pads have been applied, which is really nice. Not all AED trainers are like that. You know, some of them you have to manually use a remote to move it to the next phase of analyzing. Some of the AED trainers that are out there, you put it on, and whether the pads are on or not, the AED is going to continue on to analysis after a certain period of time. So this really brings some realism to the game, but it also enforces good technique, making sure that students are actually applying it, that they're actually pressing it in against the skin. And so for that reason, I love it. So do the students. I've actually gotten multiple compliments from students. Ironically, when it comes to equipment, the 2 things that students are kind of like surprised at, and in a good way, are the lights on these Prestan mannequins, which I have another video that reviews those, and which gives you feedback on the rate of compressions. And then the second thing that they always bring up when it related to equipment are the AED pads. And so this is probably one of the best features of the Prestan AEDs, in my opinion. Now on the bottom, or on the bottom side of this AED unit, there are 3 buttons. One of them controls the volume, and so there are 3 volume levels that you can use, and that's a good thing, because again, AEDs that don't have this, you're at a disadvantage if you're in a smaller room with multiple people and the volume is just kind of blaring and people are having a hard time hearing which AED is talking. And so to be able to reduce the volume on the AEDs makes it a little easier for everybody to hear in spaces where you might be closer together. There is a menu button here, and then there's a selection button in the center. So the menu button allows you to, first of all, change the different shock scenarios. So there's 3 shock scenarios. You have one where every 2 minutes it's going to analyze and then shock, and it's going to do that all 3 times. Shock, shock, shock. Or you can do one where it will do a shock, no shock, and then the third one will be a shock again. And then you can do a scenario where all three of them, there's going to be no shocks and the student's expected to just resume CPR immediately. So I like that versatility as well. It's great that you can change it up if you so choose, and kind of keep your students on their toes. These AEDs are compliant with the latest guidelines, and if the guidelines were to ever change, the nice thing is that they are modular. So Prestan would come out with a software update, which you can then use to update these update these AEDs, and then you're compliant once again. So, you know, when you're thinking about investing in something, you want something that's going to last the life, hopefully the life of your training career, or a good majority of it. And the AED trainers put out by Prestan are definitely going to be able to do that, both from a quality standpoint and just durability, but also from the ability to adapt to whatever guidelines come down the road in the future. One other thing I'll say is that the pads, another great thing about them is that you can reuse these over and over and over. I've had other AED trainers in the past where the pads just, you know, lose their adhesiveness and don't work after not a very long amount of time, maybe a month or so. The pads here last forever. I mean, several months, and we train almost on a daily basis, and we're able to use these for a very long time. And so that's also another consideration, is how much money are you going to be spending on pads? Well, the other thing too is when it does come time to replace the pads, these pads are super inexpensive. And I think that's back in the day when we were making the shift from the old AED trainers that we were using to Prestan, that was a big seller. Whereas the fact that I was having to replace pads all the time on my other trainers, and then when I did replace them, the pads were kind of pricey. Well, then I go and find out that Prestan has these super affordable pads, and at the time I didn't know it, but I start using them and I'm not having to replace any, and that was really great. So again, highly recommend you get in a hold of some of these. I understand maybe you've got your trainers and you don't have the funds to purchase more, but certainly when you're looking to replace, you shouldn't be looking anywhere else other than Prestan. Hands down, best AED trainers on the market if you're just wanting a generic AED trainer that's not, you know, modeled after a specific manufacturer. This is the place to go. So let me just demonstrate for you really quick how these Ultra trainers work. So the students are going to be doing CPR, obviously. You're going to hand it off to them. They'll open it up. Immediately, we're going to turn the AED on.
Adult patient. If the patient is a child, press the child button.
We're going to assume it's an adult. So
remove clothing from the patient's chest.
Remove the clothing.
Remove packet and apply pads onto patient's bare skin.
Pads come off.
Press pads firmly on skin. Press pads firmly on skin. Do not touch the patient.
All clear.
Heart rhythm. Do not touch the patient. Analyzing heart rhythm. Shock advised. Do not touch
the shock
the
button
patient.
is going to start flashing red.
Everyone clear.
And at that time,
press the flashing shock button.
All clear.
Press the shock delivered. Begin CPR.
And then we go back on the compressions. After the AED shocks and you resume compressions, there will be a metronome that will help the students with keeping the beat. This is great because a lot of real AEDs have this functionality in them, and so for your students to be able to experience that and to be comfortable with it and not be taken by surprise in the real world, I think it's a great feature. However, if you don't want that, you do have the option with the settings button to turn that metronome off. Also, there are cues of when the students should give breaths. Sometimes the students find this to be confusing because they're going at a certain rate and the AED's metronome is going at a different rate, and it's telling them to give breaths when they're not actually ready to give breaths. And so if that's a functionality that you don't like either, you can go ahead and shut that off in the menu as well. Hope that review is helpful for you. Again, this is Andrew with CPR Instructor Affiliates, powered by Prime Medical Training. I hope that review was helpful for you. You can find a discount code in the description below for WorldPoint that you can use on any and all of their products. If you liked this video and it was helpful to you, don't forget to also subscribe and hit that like button. And if you have questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. I will answer those for you. Thanks so much.